Alright guys, so I have been in the programming industry for the past 4 years, and recently I have been getting back into web development as one of my friends was interested in kind of learning the whole web development path, and I decided I wanted to make some websites again. And I figured that the most important thing and the foundational thing that you need to know is what tools and resources you need to be able to expand your knowledge independently. So I think a big thing is being able to, on your own, look up things, search new ideas, find out how to do something or solve a problem that you've run into. These are the top five resources that I have personally come up with to resolve this issue. So I'm just going to go through them one by one, and some of them are multifaceted, so it's not all just going to be just a single thing. It is really some of them are broken up, and I'll go to the actual websites as well. So the first thing we're going to look at right here is W3 School. Now, I think W3 School, I think it might be schools actually. Um, I think that this one is really important. It is W3 Schools. This one is really important because you can kind of work through each section of web development, and by section I mean each scripting and programming language. So you can work through HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, which is kind of, I believe it's a framework for CSS. If I'm wrong, I will correct that in the description. Haven't done it for a little while. Um, but right now, I would say the biggest thing you want to do is you want to immediately, go through the HTML section, kind of work your way through each part, gives you great code examples. So I think this is a good thing to reference if you need anything specific and just to go through. All right, so our next one is going to be Stack Overflow. And Stack Overflow is really, I mean, as I would describe the Google of the programming community. Um, it's really versatile for finding answers. It's a great place to kind of search through if you have a bug, if you have a problem, you can post that. You can also, a big thing is just being able to look through problems people already had that are likely the same as yours, and being able to find that issue, identify it, and then solve it. And usually people just have pretty good answers on here, and over time you'll learn how to kind of search through keywords. I mean, usually I just go into Google. I don't come to Stack Overflow and search. I just search in Google and put Stack Overflow at the end. But maybe, I don't know, if I just want to look up something with like HTML buttons, I can type that in, and obviously you're going to want to put a little more specific keywords. Like if you have an actual like specific problem, like like OnClick isn't working or something. Um, let's look for a good one here. Yeah, so here's something with jQuery. So they basically you can post code and then other people will answer and kind of give you an explanation for what you're actually looking for. So it's really helpful just to be able to kind of identify any issues you might be having. Next, we're going to go over to text editors and IDEs. So IDE is Integrated Developer Environment. There are a couple IDEs for web development, although they're somewhat sparse. Mostly people use text editors. WebStorm is one that comes to mind. Uh, that's a fairly popular IDE that is actually used for web development. I've never used WebStorm, so I'm not going to recommend or not recommend it, but typically their products are pretty good. I mean, I've used IntelliJ from them. JetBrains is the developer. I've used IntelliJ from them. I've used PyCharm. And all of those have been excellent, so maybe that's a path you might want to go down, but sometimes those can be a little pricey unless you can get a student membership, which I believe is free for a year if you can get a student license. But what you're going to primarily want to look for is you're going to look for these text editors. Now, you want to go over to something like atom.com, or you also have, I believe I have three options here. So there's Atom, um, or sorry, it's not atom.com, it is atom.io. I misspoke. Atom is a great one. This one is very well integrated with GitHub. which is actually something that I'm going to add on as a little bonus at the end here, is GitHub, because I do think that GitHub is incredibly important. Um, so maybe we'll do top 6 instead of top 5. We'll add that one on. Chuck in GitHub. Here, I'll add it right now. We'll do bonus so that I keep the integrity of the top 5. Anyway, we'll get back to GitHub. So you can just download these, kind of mess around with them. They have a lot of packages that you can download to make your life a little bit easier. You can look at different like color schemes, and there's some add-ons like there's one prettier on VS Code that you can actually add on, and it makes sure it condenses your code and makes it like look the proper way that you would want it to look for readability. Um, so those are all good options there. So let's add them. Another one is VS Code. This is the one I personally use. Download each of these. Get some time to experiment with them. Really find what niche you like. And from there, you can kind of make a decision on which one you want to keep using more. This is another one that I find really helpful is VS Code. It has a lot of really good extensions. Um, Sublime Text is another really good one. And I believe all of these are free. I believe Sublime does have an option to buy after a certain amount of time. I think that they kind of ask kindly if you would pay for it. I mean, let's just see. Um, yeah, I believe you can get a personal license here. I'm not really 100% sure about that. I will look into that for another video. Next, I would actually recommend doing free and paid course sites. In the beginning, I would primarily focus on doing free sites just to kind of get a feel for some of the fundamentals before you actually put any money into it. And there's some really good ones out here where you can pretty much entirely do it for free if you wanted to. But I would also recommend getting some of the paid material occasionally because some of the stuff is really good. Um, I believe Traversy is one of the primary ones that I went through on Udemy courses. I'm pretty sure I can show you guys some of the Udemy courses that I've taken. Um, but yeah, I think those are really important. And the first one I would look at here is going to be Free Code Camp. So Free Code Camp is great because it's free and it's an absolute wonderful compilation of resources from different people over time, and they've really broken these down. You can save some of them, haven't done anything. I'm assuming some of these are new. Um, they've really broken it down into individual sections where they provide you with your little own coding workspace. So I think it's really awesome that you can just code in here. You don't really have to mess around with any text editors right off the bat if you feel uncomfortable, or you might, maybe you don't want to mess up something in your project and they give you some code to begin with. This can be really helpful. Just for little code snippets, learning different concepts and stuff. And they kind of have a good pathway to break it down and get through this. So if you want to do responsive web design, to start off, you're going to work through each of these sections until they help you make some projects. And by that point, you'll be doing pretty good. The other two I wanted to bring up personally. This is my personal use, so obviously these are subject to individual's opinion. But for me, I spent a lot of time on Team Treehouse, which is paid. So this is I believe, a $25 a month subscription at its lowest tier. You can get like a $50 a month. And there's also a tech degree program that's a little different. I believe they have like a Slack community you can join and some other things like that to really help you advance. And that one's a little more expensive. I believe it was maybe $200 a month. And there's some projects that they really push there. But I think their $25 a month one is more than ample to explain kind of the basics. You see here they have these tracks, and these tracks kind of, you can just pick one, work through it the same way that the free code camp stuff works. But I found these to be a little more streamlined in a way, and I felt that going through this one, I was a little more confident in my skills than through Free Code Camp. But yet again, I was kind of using these simultaneously, so that may have just been adaptation of the skills combined. But personally, I would try to incorporate a couple of these, whether you do one free, two free, one paid, one free, or just all paid, whatever you decide to do. Um, I would just keep a couple different paths out there. A big thing you don't want to do though is just repeat the same information over and over and over. Now that might seem counterintuitive. It is important to be doing the same stuff over and over and over, but it's not so important to be going through these full courses over and over and over and always starting from scratch, because then you're never making any progress. So obviously repetition in projects is good because you're refining your skills, but repetition through these learning resources and these courses might not be as helpful because in the end, you're kind of stagnating your growth instead of pushing yourself to new things. So I think that's something to look out for. Now, my last one here is going to be Udemy. And I mean, Udemy is fairly popular amongst courses. I'll just take a look at some of my courses. I haven't even touched a lot of these on this account, so don't yell at me for not having finished too many of these. But I have found some of them very helpful. Like I did Brad Traversy's Modern JavaScript from the beginning course. I only got halfway through, as you can see, but I found it absolutely excellent for what I used out of it. And the Udemy courses are always on sale. I think they mostly run for like $10. The old Bootstrap course, I know that there's Bootstrap 5 now, so that's probably not going to be as relevant. But that was a fantastic course that I took. Many of these were very useful to kind of building projects and being guided to build specific projects when I myself might not have been sure of what to make. These definitely provided me with a concrete set of projects to make, which is really helpful for a portfolio or anything else you're doing. Alright, so that's it for that. Just kind of a shameless plug here. I'm not going to go on YouTube or anything, but YouTube is a great resource for programming videos. I mean, I find tons of videos for projects I want to build. Maybe I want to make like a clicker game. There's always something on there about that. On my own channel, I'm going to be continuously providing projects, so you can always check that out as time passes. I'm going to keep adding them. And the bonus, which I think is really important, is GitHub. So GitHub is basically going to be your portfolio page for yourself, for any employer that might want to look at it if you provide it in your CV. Um, and when I say for yourself, I mean this is where you can store actual projects so that you don't lose them. So I use GitHub Desktop because I'm lazy and I don't end up typing in all the commands, but there is a way you can learn to type in the actual Git commands in your command line or your terminal um, to be able to actually set up the Git. But if the easier way probably is just to get GitHub Desktop, and you can use this program to basically work through um, backing up your projects. I personally back them up on a hard drive. I also back them up on GitHub. This is a great way also to share projects. Other people can look at it. They can comment on maybe they found a bug or something, and they can kind of help you work through that. Um, GitHub's really great. It's almost a social media platform for developers, and this is just a fantastic resource you'll use going forward to look at other people's code, work on open source projects, showcase the code that you've done and the projects you've completed, and kind of show over time that you've progressed, which I think is also a great thing to show development. So these are my top five plus the bonus, the six GitHub. These are my top five resources you should use when you're starting out web development.